latest episode of the Kansas Moonshot Podcast, where we are shining the spotlight on amazing things happening in schools across the state. Whether you're one of the Mercury, Gemini, or Apollo schools launching some amazing redesign plans, or a teacher trying to do something a little different, I want to share your story. The goal is to celebrate the awesomeness all around us. Now, I don't have a guest again this week. I had someone lined up and it just fell through. And you know what? That's what happens. That's teaching, is regrouping, reorganizing, restructuring things, figuring it out. That's just how we roll. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this conference I have coming up. I'm really excited to go to the MACE conference this Thursday and Friday. I'm super excited to share some of the things we've done with redesign with educators from across the state. So if you're going to be at the MACE conference, I look forward to seeing you. This is a sneak preview of what I will be presenting on in one of my sessions. Now, one of my sessions is all about how you can share your story. Because we all have a story to tell coming from our classrooms. And when I first started teaching, I kind of isolated myself. I got into this little hole of, I'm in my own little world. I'm going to teach my students. We're going to do amazing things. And that's it. That's where it's going to stay. I'm going to stay in my own little bubble. I'm not going to share out what we're doing because I'm afraid of getting judged. I'm afraid I'm doing it wrong. I'm afraid that for some whatever reason, what I'm doing isn't good enough or it's not right. Or if I share it, something's going to go wrong. But now I've got this theory that the more we can share with others what we're doing, the more we can help improve education and grow as educators. So my goal is to showcase some ways to share what you're doing in your classroom. Now, the first one, and you've probably heard this one before, but Twitter is the greatest place for professional development most of the time. There are some times when it gets off on tangents, and there are some times when the discussion isn't as constructive as it could be. But overall, some of my best professional development comes from Twitter chats and getting connected with educators. Now, I try to share the things that I'm doing in my classroom on Twitter. I'm getting better at it, but I don't always do it 100% of the time. And what I mean by that is I want to take pictures of what's going on in my classroom and share it, the good and the bad. When I bomb an activity, when it just doesn't go the way I thought it should, I want to post that on Twitter and say, hey, look, I failed. Here's how I'm regrouping. But Twitter, again, is a great place for teachers. But you have to keep in mind your audience when you're sharing out. My goal when I share out what I'm doing in my classroom is to hit every community that is involved in my classroom. So I want to hit teachers who could benefit from what we're talking about and what's going on in my classroom, ideas they can pull into their own. I also want to address parents. And so one of the ways I communicate with parents is through YouTube. I found that I try to send emails out about every other week to my parents about, here are some of the things going on in the classroom. Here's how you can help out at home. But what I found is sometimes it takes a lot of time to go through and read this big, long email with all these discussions and questions and topics, and it gets lost in the shuffle. So what I've started doing is, along with that email, I'm also sending out parent update YouTube video clips. And I'll just email that link to them and say, hey, here are some updates for the classroom. And what I found is a lot of parents respond positively to this because that's where the world's shifting to. And it's really easy for them on their phone, pull up their email, see this YouTube link, click it, and watch a video where I talk through and I can give a lot more detail into what we're doing in the classroom. Plus, they get to put a face to a name. They hear the name Mr. Stock all the time at home, hopefully in a positive way. Or, it's me, so sometimes it's a random goofy story that's going on in the classroom. But when they hear Mr. Stock, I want them to be able to picture me. I want them to know who is working with their child. And so I like to send these videos out to help give them an insight into the classroom, but also give them a face with a name. And so I've got a YouTube channel. I share those YouTube videos with parents. Some of them subscribe to my channel. And I also post YouTube videos for my students all the time. I create them. In fact, after I'm done with this podcast episode, I'm going to be gone tomorrow. And so I'm going to record a video walking through all of the lessons we're going to be doing tomorrow. That way, even though I'm not here, I know they're getting exactly what I want them to hear. So I'm going to throw that video onto YouTube, and then I will probably put it on Edpuzzle to guide them through the lesson I want them to get tomorrow. So Twitter's great for teachers. YouTube's great for parents. I also post what we do on Instagram. Now, this is probably my biggest weakness right now, the one that I'm trying to work on the most. Instagram is where our students live. They spend a lot of time on Instagram. Good or bad, whether we like it or not, that's where a big portion of our students spend their time. And I don't know about you, but when I talk to students about social media, they don't always know the best way to use that tool. And part of that's our fault. I know it's hard to hear. It was hard for me to accept, but part of it is and when I say I mean teachers and parents and society, and you can put the blame on all of us as a whole. This is a shared responsibility, because what we say is Instagram is bad, it's evil, there's bad stuff on it, don't go to it. Well, students do it anyway. They go there. And you have to accept that fact that there are a big portion of them that are going to be ending up on Instagram at some point in their lives. And if we just constantly tell them that it's bad, and we don't tell them how to navigate it appropriately, they're never going to learn, or they're going to learn from their friends who are telling them things that might not be true. So I am on Instagram with my students. I post what we're doing in the classroom on my Instagram feed. I have 2 feeds. I have one for myself as a teacher, and I have one feed for my students. Now, a lot of times I post the same pictures to both, but I put more pictures of like my kids and my family on the teacher personal Instagram. I don't care. Students can follow that Instagram too. But I like to have one that's just dedicated to the classroom so that they know that that's the one where they'll get pictures of their friends working hard on a project, or pictures of, we do these things called the CARS celebrations where we celebrate kids who are doing awesome things in the classroom. I post those pictures up there. That's a place where they can go and see those things. Now, I will caution you, Instagram's the one that I've probably been hit with the most with spam friend requests. So my teacher personal one, I don't care. It's open. Anyone can follow me. You can follow me if you want. It's Teach Like a Ninja on Instagram. You can also follow my classroom one, but I have it so that I have to give permission to anyone who follows it. That lets me avoid all the spam ones. So if you do that filter, it's just one layer of safety that I can put on there. It just makes it a private account. You can follow that one too if you'd like. It's at Mr. Stock Rocks. All I do is when I get a friend request, I look at who's trying to follow it. I see, oh, this looks like a real person, not some random spam bot. And then I approve it. But Instagram is where students are. So that is where I want to be too. I want to put the information out there on Instagram. My school also does a fantastic job using the different social media platforms. They are on Instagram, they are on Twitter, they are on Facebook, and things like snow days. I found out about snow days through one of our snow days. I found out on Twitter before I found out anywhere else. It's amazing how social media works like that. And so utilize those tools to share what's going on in your classroom. Remind people that we're doing great things at school. Sometimes I usually see 2 different types of stories. And usually the negative drowns out the positive things going on in the classroom. So I always like to put out that positive of, this is a classroom and these are the great things that are going on. So how do I manage all of that? One thing that I use is a tool called Buffer. If you go to a website called buffer.com. Now we're doing a deep dive into some technical stuff today. So just stick with me. I'm hyped up for this tech conference on Thursday and Friday, but buffer.com is a website where you can link up to 3 accounts for free. So I've got my LinkedIn account, my Twitter account, and then I have a Facebook page, which I'll talk about in a minute, all linked to this one Buffer account. And what I like about Buffer is I can go on there and I can post one social media post, and it goes to all three of those at the same time. That way I'm not posting to all these different social media platforms. Hootsuite is another great platform for this. The only reason why I don't use Hootsuite is because, and this is just personal preference, but I got, it's embarrassing to admit, but I got a little confused by Hootsuite. I know there are some diehard Hootsuite fans, and I think that if I can figure it out, I will utilize it more. But again, Hootsuite's another one that you can post to multiple social media platforms at once. And I like that because it makes it all in one spot instead of having to do cross-platform. Now, the last thing I want to mention is this thing called a Facebook page. Okay. It's not your Facebook profile that you do a friend request. You can create your own page that is dedicated to your classroom. So I've got one that's more of a professional a Facebook page, and it's just called Josh Stock. You can find it on Facebook. And what it is it's not my profile. It's an additional page for me as an educator where I post things that are going on in the classroom. But again, it's more of a professional tool for me where I'm highlighting some of the things in my classroom, but also some of the presentations I'm doing, some of the professional development work that I'm doing. And so I'd recommend you consider doing that as well, because there are a lot of parents on Facebook. And again, you can get that positive classroom atmosphere out there. So those are just a couple of the social media platforms that I'm using right now, how I'm using them, what I'm using them for. I love to talk about this stuff. So if you have any suggestions, if you're like, I have this great idea for using one of these social media platforms, please let me know about it. One final thing that I'm trying, and I just started this, like as in this week, I've been wanting to do it for a long time, but I'm just now kicking it off, is I really would love if students ran my social media. That's a scary thought. I work with 6th graders. They're not quite ready for that level of responsibility yet. I actually, over the robotics season, I have 7th and 8th graders on my robotics team, and I let a couple of the 7th and 8th graders actually run our robotics team's social media. But my 6th graders aren't quite there yet. So what I'm doing is I'm training some of my students to take pictures in the classroom, and they're my official photographers. They're taking pictures and airdropping them to me, and then I can post them on social media. It's still cumbersome. It still takes some time. I still haven't quite worked out the details yet of what this looks like. For now, I just want them to get the pictures for me while I'm busy teaching. So these are just some of the forms of social media that I'm diving into. I wanted to get into podcasting too, but I think that's another episode, a story for another day. But just know that at some point down the road, I'd love to talk to you guys about podcasting, which is ultimately why I started this podcast to begin with. I wanted to highlight the things that were going on in education across the state. And podcasts are a great way to share that. Now, that is it for this episode. Now, in a future episode, I would love to have an entire episode dedicated to listener mail. I would love to hear what you want to know about and try to answer some questions. So right now, I just want you to think, are there any redesign questions you have? Anything you're just dying to know? Let me know about it. You can email me at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com. That's at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com. Email me, ask me your question, and I'll try to put it on the show. Or you can direct message me on Twitter. Again, I'm at teachlikeaninja. That is where you can find me, reach me, ask me your questions, and I will try to put those, investigate, find the answers, and try to put them on an episode in the near future. I do have some guests lined up over the next couple weeks. Fingers crossed I get some new episodes recorded. I'm kind of excited about some of the things we've got in the works. I've got an elementary school teacher who is helping put together an ed camp. I've got a teacher in my building who's just doing something amazing called Saturday Scholars. And so once I can get all of our schedules worked out, and then I've got an interview with one of the people from Summit Learning to talk about their experiences and what they offer with Summit Learning. So that is it for this episode. If you are at the MACE conference, please come by, say hi. I want to talk to you. Come to one of my sessions. I'm going to do one on this stuff. This is just a little preview of that. And then I'm doing a whole nother episode on some of our giving students choice in the classroom, how we're doing that at Santa Fe Trail with our redesign efforts. Now, if you want to know more about what's going on in my classroom, more about this episode, you can go to my website, mrstockrocks.com. That's mrstockrocks.com. And if you have know of someone doing something awesome in their classroom, let me know about it. I love to have them on the show. You can email me, like I said, teachlikeaninja@gmail.com or on Twitter @teachlikeaninja. Please let me know anything you want to know about. Also, if you get a chance, if you could give me a rating on iTunes, that's how I move up on the podcasting list. And moving up just means more people will hear what we have to say, what is going on in Kansas schools. We need to shine the spotlight on it. We need to shout it from the rooftops because we're doing some amazing things. We are doing some serious changes, and it is going to be awesome. That is all I've got. I've been your host, Josh Stock, 6th grade language arts teacher and self-proclaimed awesomeness expert. Until next time, book it forward and be awesome.